G'day Year 12 and welcome to another YouTube lesson. Today we're going to take a look at the current legal framework. It's the second of these lessons. The first one again was on the current legal framework. Have lots of dot points that we need to discuss. Today's lesson under the current legal framework looks at OH&S, these days called Workplace Health and Safety, WH&S. Make sure in all of your responses you're writing WH&S, not OH&S. Also takes a look at workers' compensation, and we talk about the difference between those two. It's a bit tricky sometimes, and some HSC multiple choice questions, if you don't quite get the differences, you might get tripped up a little bit. Under the current legal framework, we also look at this idea of any discrimination and EEO, equal employment opportunity. And again, the difference between those two. Sometimes that is a little bit tricky for students to understand. Now, all of these things, just like last lesson, are influences. So like always, I want you to be able to define the dot point. And then I also want you to be able to say, how is this an influence? How does it affect the business? Just like if it's a strategy, define the dot point and say how it's actually a strategy for the business, how it can be used as a strategy. In this instance, it's an influence though. Now, the first of the four things under current legal framework is workplace health and safety. And again, some of you, if you're looking at your syllabus, will see OH&S. That's changed. So make sure it's always written as the W, not the O. Now, there's 9 separate WH&S jurisdictions in Australia. That's for the 6 states, the 2 territories, plus the Commonwealth, the national one as well. The body that administers, that looks after WH&S at a federal level is called Safe Work Australia. Now, Band 6 kids need to know these things. They need to know that it's called Safe Work Australia. All right. Now, if an organisation or business has 20 or more people, just like our school does, you have to have a WH&S committee. And their job is to go around to try and look ahead to see if there's any potential hazards or problems that might occur. Another few things as well. Now, WH&S is about making sure potential accidents, that's potential likely accidents, are identified and procedures are then put in place to minimise any risk in the future. I don't know if you guys understand the term proactive and reactive. You may have heard of that before, but proactive is looking ahead and trying to stop something from happening. You might see sometimes a council and the footpaths, you'll see that like trip hazard areas, they've got spray paint that might be pink or yellow, something that's high vis, and they'll spray the edge where it's likely to be dangerous. They'll then later come back and fix that area up, but they're identifying a problem before it happens, or a likely hazard or problem before it happens, and trying to do something. Hence, it's on here in your answers, proactive. Now, how's this an influence? So it's important to mention how these things are influences. It's an influence because all businesses, HR, must comply with WH&S legal requirements. You have to do it. Now, it influences a business in good ways, because if you can identify problems and hazards, then when you look at the HR effectiveness criteria, that can be beneficial for that. Lower levels of accidents, greater worker satisfaction, less days of absenteeism. However, there's also a thing called compliance cost. It's expensive to keep up with all of these different things. So it can have a negative impact upon human resources as well. Now, as I said before, WH&S versus workers' compensation, COMPO. You've got to get the difference between them. Workers' compensation is reactive. It's after the event, whereas WH&S is proactive before the event. Now, workers' compensation is governed by the Workers' Compensation Act, 1987 New South Wales, and the Workers' Compensation and Workplace Injury Management Act, 1998 New South Wales. So an addition to it. Now, that again, those pieces of legislation is what I want to see when you're writing your short answers, when you're writing your essays. That's the stuff that if you want a Band 6 students include. Now, the aim of the legislation is to maintain the income of the injured employee and ensure that once rehabilitated fixed up, the employee is able to return to work in some capacity, hopefully in full capacity eventually. So when we talk about WH&S, we're trying to stop these accidents from occurring. Where no accident has occurred as such yet, we're looking out for trip hazards, for anything that might be dangerous in some way, and fixing it before it happens. When we look at workers' compensation, we're talking about an incident's occurred. How can this employee be given compensation in some way? And it doesn't have to be financial. It could be some time at home to recover while they're still paid. It could be to come back on light duties. From time to time, we've had teachers, and I know my role as head teacher admin, we've had teachers come back on light duties. So they may not be teaching their full teaching load while they're recovering. Maybe it might be a case that their classes are located on a bottom level, so they don't have to walk upstairs. If you're in a factory or warehouse, they might get you to work in the office for a while. And that's what workers' compensation is about. It's about trying to help the person ease back into their work and compensating them financially if needs be. Now, the big thing here, how is it an influence? Always asking yourself, how is it an influence? It's an influence because if an employee, a worker, is injured in the workplace, the HR management needs to pay the worker compensation or have their insurance company do it. They also might need to put the worker on light duties if relevant. Is this an impost? Is this an additional cost for human resources, a pain? Of course it is. And so generally it's got a negative impact. But the positive is that if you do it well and other workers see that the manager, the boss cares, then that can have a positive flow-on effect with some of that effectiveness criteria we'll look at later on. Now, anti-discrimination versus EEO, equal employment opportunity. What's anti-discrimination about? Again, it's a legal criteria that a business must meet. It's about reducing and eliminating discrimination in the workplace. Again, I want you guys to have these tidy textbook definitions. An example would be if an employer, a boss, or another employee perhaps, were to make racial slurs or sexist remarks about a particular culture or gender within the workplace. All right, it's just general racism, sexism, ageism. Sometimes people in social science say that I'm old, and that's an example of anti-discrimination. They know who they are. It is covered by various pieces of legislation. Again, Band 6 kids need to have these legislations as examples. Sex Discrimination Act, 1984, CTH, Commonwealth. The Racial Discrimination Act, 1975, CTH. And also another example you can use is the Disability Discrimination Act, 1992, Commonwealth. There's also the Anti-Discrimination Act as well, quite a few others, but a few of these are needed for good quality responses. Now, it does differ from EEO because equal employment opportunity takes it a bit further. It's about not giving people equal employment opportunity. It's about the hiring, the promoting, the firing of workers based on, say, their gender, their ethnicity, sexual preference, etc., etc. All right. Now, all of this is an influence on HR because human resources must have in place procedures to minimise discrimination, racism, sexism, etc. within the workplace. Now, a bit more on EEO. Equal employment opportunity refers to all employees, workers, having equal access to opportunities in the workplace. This includes the hiring, the promotion, and also when there's retrenchment, you're not the one to go because you are female or because you're of a particular race, etc. Now, if somebody, just say, I'm employing somebody as I do as head teacher admin, and I just employ all women. Women are better, dudes suck, I'm after just the chicks. That would be an example of breaching EEO because it's relating to the employment and I'm employing only the gender of women, not men. Similarly, just say our principal's looking to hire a new head teacher, maths or something, science, whatever. Then if they just hire somebody, or they won't hire somebody, either way, they won't hire somebody because they're of a particular culture or race, then that would, again, be an example of equal employment opportunity. All right, now, how's this an influence? The same way in which any discrimination was an influence, procedures must be put in place to make sure that they're complying with the law. And that does take time and at additional cost. All right, thanks again, guys, for listening. See you in class.